doing this morning?
Oh, trying to get caffeinated.
I am too. I just poured my last cup of coffee in a coffee cup, and I'm so mad. I'm gonna try to make this last for like a good hour. Um, so, you guys, today I am going to briefly go over Anthony Avalos' case. His trial started already, and I'm going to go over what's been happening in trial so far. Um, I hate talking about his case because it's just so disturbing. Um, oh. All right, so, and I did a video before and I've kind of gone over it, but if you guys haven't watched it, this is his story. Anthony Avalos was the fastest runner in his fourth grade class at El Dorado Elementary School in Lancaster. He actually earned a place on the honor roll. His teacher, Harmony Bell, noticed an uncommon emotional maturity for a boy his age. He often collected his thoughts before speaking, asking Bell if he could step out of the room and take a few breaths. Um, Whenever a new student would join the classroom, he asked to move to a nearby seat, hoping to be a friend to the newcomer. Bell also saw that Anthony was often nervous about something. He would bring a Bible and he would hold it tightly throughout the day. Once he actually had tears uh, coming out when his Bible fell to the floor. Anthony would never return to school after classes ended that year. The next month, the 10-year-old arrived at the ER with fatal bleeding in his skull. His body showed signs of prolonged abuse. His skin was bruised and burned from head to toe. His once healthy frame had wasted to skin and bones. Anthony had been under supervision of the LA County Department of Children and Family Services sporadically over a 4 year period, beginning in 2013 and ending in 2017, more than a year before his death. During that period, there were at least 13 calls made by teachers, police, counselors, relatives to the child abuse hotline about Anthony's welfare. I'm going to play one of those calls real quick. This case, oh my gosh. All right, hold on.
And so we asked, and the mom just came and said that they were fighting each other. They said mom wasn't at home, and that he made them fight.
The assistant principal at Anthony's elementary school called DCFS. They say the boy told her he was being forced to dig through the trash to find food, beaten by his mom. Even Anthony's uncle, David Barron, filed a complaint to DCFS against his own sister. He also described how Leva dangled the boy out a second-story window by his ankles and beat him.
He came to our house and his ears had scabs and bruises on it. And he said it was from Kareem dragging him around by his ears. And I was like, well, what else does he do? He's like, he picks me up and he slams me to the floor and against the wall.
Despite those filings, 9 of them over 2.5 years, Child and Family Services workers deemed the reports of physical abuse to be unfounded or inconclusive. One report filed with DCF coming from a DCF worker, mandated by law to report signs of abuse. She reported bruises on the face and arm of one of Anthony's siblings, but didn't seem to take the issue seriously.
So, there was a few calls, especially by the family. That one, that was the first call, that was from a daycare worker. Um, but for child protective workers and others tasked with protecting Anthony missed numerous warnings and opportunities to intervene before his death. Um, Anthony's mother, who is named Heather Barron, and her boyfriend, Kareem Leva, They were charged with first-degree murder and Anthony's torture death. Um, Prosecutors intended to seek the death penalty, but I will explain that later. They both pled not guilty. Anthony's siblings were removed from the home. The county's child welfare agency has faced scrutiny after a series of high profile child abuse cases in recent years, including the suspicious death in July of 4-year-old Noah Quarto. In Palmdale, caseworkers had left Noah with his family despite a court order to remove him. Me and Arctic also did a show on Noah before. Um, these have these are really close to Gabriel Fernandez. They're all in the same area. They're basically the same circumstances. Um, Anthony's case struck many people as having similarities to the 2013 death of Gabriel Fernandez, um, who were convicted of his torture murder. In the wake of Anthony's death, the county issued a report saying the circumstances, while horrible, heartbreaking, and apparently brutal, were very dissimilar to Gabriel's death. But DCFS and grand jury records and interviews show striking similarities in the two deaths that occurred within a 15-minute drive in the Antelope Valley. In both cases, workers carried out superficial investigations and didn't always follow proper protocols. I will read in a minute what some caseworkers said in his case. Okay, so an outside counselor contracted by the county to provide services for Anthony's family had previously been questioned about her work in the Fernandez case, and a DCFS caseworker supervising the agency's contact with Anthony's family had been disciplined for missteps in the Fernandez case. The review by the Investigative Reporting Program at UC Berkeley and the Times found 4 other county social workers accused of mishandling abuse allegations in Gabriel's case are scheduled to go to trial on charges of felony child abuse and falsifying records. But as we all know, they were never convicted of that. Um, they got off scotch free. So, February 2013 to February 2015, there were missed warnings. Anthony's parents, Heather and Victor Avalos, which is Anthony's real father, were still teenagers when Anthony was born. Avalos left for Mexico soon after, seeing his son grow up through occasional video chats, but never again in person. Anthony's mother raised the family with earnings from a part time job at Subway and $793 in monthly welfare benefits. Um, in family photos, Anthony usually has a wide smile, holding a report card from school, wearing a blue dinosaur t shirt, or with his head held high in a vest striped tie. In others, though, he looked pensively at the camera. He was a very happy kid. If you guys, I am friends with the aunts and uncle who fight, even the grandma, every single day to get justice. You can see how happy he was at their house. They should have just let them stay there. So Anthony was only 4 when his mother brought him to a health clinic after he said that someone close to the family sexually molested him. The visit resulted in the first of many calls to the child abuse hotline. DFCS records show that investigators concluded the abuse had occurred, but they did not set up any ongoing supervision or counseling after assurances from Anthony's mother that she would find him help and keep him away from the alleged abuser. After he turned 6, his aunt, Crystal, told her therapist that Anthony's mother was beating him and locking him in a room with no access to food or a bathroom. The therapist called the hotline to say what she'd heard. Anthony verified the account to a caseworker who interviewed him at school. Further interviews revealed that his mother had not gotten him counseling and that Anthony was acting sexually inappropriately with another child. I mean, they should have made sure that happened. Obviously, she parents say that all the time. I'm going to get them help. I'm going to get them help, and they never do. Um, Such behave such behavior is not uncommon with victims of sexual abuse. Experts have found DCFS workers wrote that Anthony's mother did not seek professional help for Anthony and that his siblings told them that she beat him. Caseworkers believed there was neglect in the home and referred the family to the department's voluntary family maintenance program. Under the program, children can stay with their families while they work to resolve issues underlying the abuse. And this program is only designed for low risk cases. Um, this is what happened in Noah's case as well, but they never did anything. They never went to the counseling, they never resolved anything. Um, Internal reviews showed that caseworkers placed children, including Anthony, into the program even after the department's risk scoring tool evaluating them as being high risk. Gabriel Fernandez had also been in the program despite a risk rating of very high, and so did Noah. Caseworkers did not remove him from his home even after he wrote a suicide note, appeared in school with wounds from BB pellets shot across his face, and told his teacher that his mother abused him. One of the caseworkers assigned to Anthony was Matthew Mansfield, a veteran DCFS supervisor, who also played a role in Gabriel's placement in the voluntary program. He was later disciplined, and I quote, disciplined for the move following an internal inquiry, according to grand jury transcripts. In Anthony's case, Mansfield and colleague Mark Millman brought in counselors from the Children's Center of the Antelope Valley to provide services for children and their mother. Heather was then 24 with four children and another one on the way. Based solely on the information provided by Ms. Baron, the assessor believes that her capacity to provide suitable care for her children is severely limited by her poor parenting skills, judgment, and denial and lack of awareness for her mental health issues. Counselor Luis Ramirez wrote in June 2014, Baron's specific mental health diagnosis is redacted in court records. So Wendy Wright, another counselor at the Children's Center who spent significant time with Anthony and his mother, called the child abuse hotline that October to report that um, Baron grabbed one of Anthony's siblings violently and dragged him across the room, constantly talked about her children in derogatory terms, and displayed nothing but anger toward those children. Wright told the hotline operator that Millman was slow to respond to her phone calls and did not seem to take action when she finally reached him. Shane Boakley, another DCFS worker, who was assigned to investigate Wright's report, wrote in his notes that Barone cursed, yelled, and acknowledged hitting the children with a belt. Bulkley quoted Millman as saying, given the children and their age and their behavior, she is just doing all she can. Can you believe that? She's doing all she can by not giving them love, not feeding them, dragging them across the room, hitting them with belts. Yeah, she's doing all she can. Not doing counseling. Oh, go on. Millman and Bulkley declined to comment. Then, in November 2014, another therapist at the Children's Center, Crystal G., called the child abuse hotline to report that one of the children told her, "Mommy whoops our asses." Millman followed up with her in a brief conversation, G said. A software program the department used to score the children's risk of being abused again indicated the likelihood was high and recommended increased supervision. Bulkley and his supervisor overruled the recommendation and closed the investigation, saying that they did not have evidence to substantiate the allegations. All these people, that's not enough evidence, and that even the children saying this is going on, but there's no evidence. At the close of 2014, Millman and his supervisor, Mansfield, took the Children's Center off the case and enlisted a new agency, Hathaway, Sycamore's Child and Family Services, which had provided similar services to Gabriel Fernandez through its counselor, Barbara Dixon. The files do not address why the switch was made. G would later testify to a grand jury that she considered her removal and its timing very odd. Dixon would later testify about her role in the Fernandez case before Gabriel's death. In 2017, she told the court in the criminal case against Gabriel's caseworkers that she witnessed extensive injuries but withheld the information from the child abuse hotline. Dixon was given immunity to testify. After Dixon was assigned to Anthony's case, the focus of her counseling to reduce the abuse in the family was directed at Anthony, not his mother. Her case note shows that she counseled him to listen to his mother more attentively and to finish his homework. So she's blaming poor Anthony. This is all happening because of you. You need to start listening. Her notes, spanning about a 1-year period from February 2015 to January 2016, was Anthony, when Anthony was ages 6 and 7, depicted the boy as prone to whining, crying, and tantrums that she said made parenting him difficult. It disgusts me. Some of Dixon's notes were cut and pasted from one session to the next, and they did not mention the new allegations of abuse that arrived at the child abuse hotline during the time she worked with the family. April 2015 to January 2017. Heather's brother, David, amazing man. He was the first person in the family to meet Kareem, a co-worker at a Santa Clarita shipping facility. In 2015, David actually introduced Leva to his sister Heather, and the two began a relationship that would span years and eventually produce her 7th child. As the relationship progressed, Heather told caseworkers that she became the victim of domestic abuse. An attorney declined to comment, in this article at the time. So within months of their introduction, the father of one of Heather's younger children told police that Leva was abusing his son. A sheriff's deputy interviewed the boy then too, who told him that Leva had violently grabbed him by the ear, leaving it bruised and cut. The deputy wrote that she herself saw the wounds. But when Sheriff's Department Chris Wyatt got the report, he made no attempt to find Leva, recommended no charges, and ended the investigation. Once again, DCFS workers also did not locate and interview Leva at any point over the 3 years they investigated the family, even though they suspected he was at the home regularly on nights and weekends. They also did not follow the department's rules requiring them to contact Leva's other children or their mothers. If they had, or if they would have pulled court records, they would have seen then that 2 other women had restraining orders against him after they separately told judges that Leva beat them with their children present. DCFS opened a case in dependency court for the sibling, but not for Anthony and the other children in the home. Soon thereafter, one of the assigned DCFS caseworkers, Anna Sciortino, saw visible marks and bruises on the sibling's face and left arm. She told the child abuse hotline, that she doubted the abuse claim, but she wanted it recorded to cover our butts. And that's what I'm going to read later. It's disgusting. Baran and the boy told her the injuries occurred when he fell in the shower. Caseworkers deemed the story plausible and marked the father's allegation unfounded. She later acknowledged that she hadn't reviewed her department's files on earlier abuse complaints involving Anthony and his siblings. DFCS, DCFS guidelines nevertheless uh, require the allegation to be sent to the police for a criminal investigation. The assignment went to Sheriff's Deputy Billy Cox, who had been disciplined in the past for failing to properly investigate an unrelated child abuse allegation, according to his testimony in court. Cox also testified that he never contacted Barone or Leva. It was routine and common practice, he said, that if a referral was called in by a social worker, that we basically rubber stamped it, so to speak, and sent it through. So by September 2015, Anthony was enrolled at Lincoln Elementary School. In talking with Anthony, Vice Principal Gia Groves had become increasingly dismayed. He told Groves that his mother beat him and locked him in a room with no access to food, water, and the bathroom. He also described the captain's chair, and this was a form of discipline that required Anthony to hold a squatted position for a long period of time with his arms outstretched. She would also call the child abuse hotline on September 18th. Around the same time, Anthony's uncle, David, heard the same alarming stories from the children during a visit. They told him about being locked in a room, and they said Leva also ordered the captain's chair punishment. Additionally, the children said that Leva whipped their faces and legs with a belt and dangled Anthony's younger half brother upside down from a staircase. When Heather came to pick up her children, David, which is her brother, and his wife physically blocked her from taking them, and they called 911. Sheriff's Deputy Michael responded and called the child abuse hotline to report what happened. They seemed pretty shaken up when I talked to them about it. They told Gallardo told the hotline worker on the recorded line, adding his recommendation that the children not go home with their mother. The next day, David called the hotline himself. The children, he said, confided that they had been locked in a room so long that they went to the bathroom on themselves. When Levi got angry, they said he threw dirty diapers at them, slammed them into walls, and dragged one of Anthony's half brothers by the ear, leaving it scabbed and bruised. The children were so hungry that they hoarded food. When asked how long this had been happening, the children could be heard in the background responding, 1,000 weeks. David told the hotline worker that Anthony's mother is cutting herself and saying that she hates life. I have pictures of her slitting her wrists and saying that she wants to die. He also told the hotline worker that Levi was a member of the MS-13 gang, and this is the gang that I've talked about before. This is one of the Mexican gangs that do not care. They will hurt children. They will do whatever to children. This is one of the worst gangs, most dangerous gangs out there. 2 days later, DCFS caseworker Ikaya Vernon met with Anthony at his aunt and uncle's home. He repeated the account of abuse. Heather is my old mom. This is my new house. I am part of the Braun family now. He told Vernon, according to her notes, I'm never going to see Heather again. She locks us up in our rooms and makes us starving. Vernon then called Dixon and two other Hathaway Sycamore counselors who had been working in the home for 7 months. They were supportive of Heather Baron's parenting during the discussion. Each service provider reported that they have never heard anything from the children about the abuse and neglect. Oh. Vernon had recently joined the department. Her notes indicate that she had been unwilling to draw a conclusion about abuse based solely on what the children had told her. When David and Maria showed up at the DCFS office for answers about the investigation, Vernon turned them away and incorrectly told them they could get information only from Anthony's mother. The couple left unaware that they could have filed a formal petition to ask the court to intervene. Heather Barone still had her parental rights to the children, and after she brought them home in the last week of September, Vernon met with Anthony at his school. He said his mother was starting to be nice and does a new thing where she does not lock the bedroom door anymore. A month later, and his siblings recanted their allegations of abuse. Mm. Wyatt, the sheriff's detective reviewing the last allegations, closed his investigation after one failed attempt to reach Leva. According to Wyatt's court testimony, he also never talked to Gilardo, the deputy who called the child abuse hotline. In December 2015, Vernon marked the allegations from Brooks, Gilardo, and David as inconclusive. She also used a computer system to score the family's risk of abuse and neglect, and once again, it rated high and recommended a greater level of intervention. Vernon and her supervisor, however, decided against any further action. So, at the conclusion of my investigation, the situation was stabilized because the children had recanted their stories. Of course they did. They were sent home and they got threatened that it, if they didn't change their stories, then something really, really bad or the abuse would just keep continuing. They were scared,
Oh yeah.
you know? So, oh, these fucking people. Dixon and Hathaway Sycamores ended their work with the family the next month. Hathaway Sycamore's chief executive, Debbie Manners, declined to be interviewed for this article. Later, Mildred Blue, a teacher providing services to Barone at a domestic violence center, reported to the child abuse hotline in April 2016 that the children arrived with bruises and said that Leva had forced them to fight each other at home. They also appeared to be really hungry. One even ate out of the trash can. The children denied the allegation when interviewed once again by DCFS caseworker, who did not try to reach Levi at Baron's home and decided there was no need for a follow up. Why are they not making this man so they can't get a hold of him and they just let it go? Isn't that like a freaking what's it called? Aren't they supposed to talk to?
It, well, yeah, and the worst thing about the well, there's several worst things about this story, but one of the worst things about it is we always tell people that if you see something, you need to say something, and everyone that could have possibly fucking said something in this case did, and their complaints were completely disregarded.
Yeah, it his family. I hate this. Out of Gabriel's case and even Noah's and Anthony's, people are always like, "Where was the family?" I know every single one of these family members, and I've spoken to them, and they tried everything they could to help. So I hate that people say, "Oh, well, where was the family? Where was the family?" They did everything they could in each and every one of these cases, except go to jail, which would do no good. They could have kidnapped them and whatever, but they have children of their own as well. And they were doing everything, and they didn't know, hey, you can petition the court. Um, it's, I hate when people say that. It pisses me off because they definitely said something in all these cases. Um, okay. So we left off at there was no need for a follow up. Cox, the sheriff's investigator, also received a report of Blue's hotline call. He too decided not to follow up. According to his testimony, the department requires detectives to conduct independent investigations of child abuse and not rely solely on DCFS reports, even if DCFS says it's unfounded. Near the end of 2016, at least one more call to the child abuse hotline arrived regarding Anthony's family, but details in the department files are scant. Caseworkers marked it unfounded. Once again, around this time, Heather cut ties with her brother, her sister, and her sister in law, and the educators who had once reported abuse. She moved Anthony to El Dorado Elementary, where his history was unknown. That's another thing you need to change. I think everything should be connected, especially if you've been in the system before. There, he got,
Yeah.
it's there has to be some kind of connection so they can be on the lookout. And but this is where like he met his new fourth grade teacher, who was Harmony Bell, and this is when he wrote a letter on the last day of school. And it says, "Dear Miss Bell, thank you for teaching me everything you could. It was such a blessing to meet you. I just hope that when I'm going to six, that you can come to New Vista so I can see you still. I hope that you can come to my high school, middle school, and college. That way, we will see each other uh, for school years without a problem, because how close we are and how we are best buddies and friends. I just want to stay with you forever, but I can't. I just hope you have a good rest of your life, because you already know that I'm going to have a good life. Love, Anthony Avalos, your friend." June 18th, the truth comes too late. The alleged final series of events began on June 18th when Heather said Anthony confided to her that he liked boys. And this also happened in Gabriel's case. This also happened in Noah's case. And either way, who gives a shit? I don't know why they try to use this as an excuse. If one of my children came out to me and said, "Hey, I am gay," okay, I am so happy, especially if it was a girl. It's like, I'm so happy. I don't have to worry about you getting pregnant. And of course, I want grandkids, but I have 8 kids, so that would be, ooh, that would be a lot. Anyway, it doesn't matter if you are gay. So she told a DFCFS caseworker that Leva overheard the conversation. The following night, Leva allegedly dropped Anthony repeatedly on his head, according to grand jury transcripts. LA County Sheriff's deputies responded to a 911 call that was made from Heather about 12:15 p.m. June 20th, 2018, and found Anthony inside the family's apartment. Authorities said they were told the boy had suffered injuries from a fall. Paramedics took him to the hospital in grave condition. Maria, which is the aunt, and David's wife, which is Heather's brother, learned of Anthony's condition and went to the hospital, where she found Heather in the hallway, she said in an interview. When Heather hesitated to let her see her nephew, Maria crouched at her feet on her hands and knees on the floor to plead. She was pleading with her. She was crying. She's like, "Let me see my nephew." Through tears, she told Heather that she was so sorry for reporting the abuse allegations, anything to win her way in. So she was doing all this, saying sorry, crying, pleading with her. When Heather relented, Maria found Anthony unconscious and breathing on a ventilator. His lifeless face was held by a large yellow neck brace. Sensors were taped around his skull, recording his diminished brain activity. He was 4 feet 6 inches tall and weighed 77 pounds. He later he died hours later on June 21st. So county officials removed the other children from the home as the investigation continued. October 2018, over the next few months, the true horror of what happened to Anthony and his siblings finally came out. Um, Over the next few months, the true horror of what happened, a grand jury heard evidence in Anthony's case in October His teacher, Harmony Bell, testified that Anthony had a mind blowing positivity, according to his unsealed transcript. In addition to the letter, she said he often drew pictures for her and her daughters. Anthony's uncle David said in an interview that he loved playing football and fishing at Apollo Park. To help earn the fishing trips, David said Anthony excelled at school. He told his uncle that he didn't talk when he wasn't supposed to. He didn't roughhouse, that he helped pick up things from the floor and helped the teacher pass out papers. In the months since Anthony's death, his siblings have answered questions, often reluctantly. For detectives, prosecutors, and grand jurors, providing a graphic and uh, poignant coda, all the while professing their love for their mother and desire to protect her. Anthony's 8-year-old sister told investigators he was forced to kneel on his bare knees on dry rice a lot, often from the time he returned from school until it was time for bed. It was such a common practice that his knees were scabbed, never healing. His 7-year-old brother would say the children would have to fight one another to escape punishment, and eating was a privilege that they had to earn. If they urinated while they were locked in a room, Levi would push their face into the puddle. Sometimes he would stuff a shirt in their mouth to muffle the screams. So, this is, this is what happened. And we've been waiting for trial, and now it's finally here. David and his wife have also won a lawsuit against, the county. Thank God, but that will never bring Anthony back. So I just want to go over. Today is day 10 of the trial. Let me show some videos. What's all jailhouse punishment? Maybe deceased ex-husband did that crap. Yeah, and you guys are gonna be so mad that this Gaskin. Oh my God, he doesn't want the death penalty. Um, all right, let me pull up these. Sorry, hold on. Isn't it horrible? And isn't it crazy? It's the same, some of the same DCFS workers that failed Gabriel. They should have been fucking fired.
Yeah. And then they're going to sit there and do this to this poor baby because he comes out as gay, possibly, which is like what the living fuck, you
Yeah.
know. And all the while, he's been sexually abused by this piece of shit.
Yep.
I mean, I'm like, really?
Yeah. It's. Ugh. So, in trial so far, um, a woman testifies to seeing her dad drop 10-year-old Anthony. And I will read this. Let me show a video. Ow, shit. Let me show a video real quick of while I'm cooling all this up. Because I have to use the bathroom. Oh my God, I'm about to come on this. This is her. Maybe it'll let me play it instead of. I just don't want to get a what's it called? A strike. Share my screen. Oh, and I wish I could be there so bad. His daughter testifies. Okay.
The Anthony Avalos murder and torture trial.
All forced to sit in the net.
against her own father, at times through tears. Our Colleen Sullivan has the story.
10-year-old Anthony Avalos spent the last 5 days of his short life confined to this bedroom, according to Priscilla. Priscilla is the now 18-year-old daughter of defendant Kareem Leyva, who is on trial alongside Anthony.
Look at those pieces of shit. Look at those pieces of shit. I cannot. This woman never deserved to have 7 children.
His mom, Heather Barron. Priscilla testified that on a Friday, her dad was punishing Anthony because he wouldn't eat. 2 days later, on that Monday, Anthony was still in his bedroom, and Priscilla says she saw her father hold Anthony by the neck and drop him repeatedly on his head. She testified that Anthony was motionless, not responding. Anthony's mom was there.
I have to pause it every few minutes, you guys. But remember, this is this boyfriend. This is his daughter testifying all of this.
Watching. And then Priscilla says Heather splashed water in Anthony's face to try to wake him up. Prosecutor John Hatami. They weren't done beating him.
John Hatami is fucking amazing. He is the same he's the same person that was on Gabriel's case. He is such an amazing person.
So Heather tried to wake him up for more beating? Yes, Priscilla answered. The teen says she never saw Anthony wake up, but it wasn't until 2 days later that Anthony's mom called 911.
911, what's your emergency?
My son's not breathing.
What's that?
My son's not breathing.
The morning of that 911 call, Priscilla says she saw Anthony still motionless, this time on the living room floor. Quote, he was unconscious and he looked dead.
You guys see that?
I knew he was gone. Deputy District Attorney to Priscilla. Who did that to Anthony? Caused him to be gone? Priscilla, my dad, DA Hatami. And Heather was there during this? Priscilla, yes. Priscilla also testified that she witnessed her father and Heather Barron force feed hot sauce to Anthony, Raphael, and Destiny as a punishment, and she saw them all forced to sit in.
Look how dirty their house is. Look at those eyes, no soul. No soul at all. You see nothing, just it's empty. Emptiness, evil.
In the now infamous captain's chair for hours at a time.
So we have, she testified.
Feinstein.
And waiting 48 fucking hours to call 911. Now come the fuck on.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. And
let me beat the fuck out of you, and then maybe in a couple of days, if I feel like it, I'll dial 911.
yeah, it is disgusting. Hold on. I want to play the teachers. So she said, the young woman who is one of Levi's 8 children said she saw Anthony unconscious and apparently dead in the living room 2 days later after her father directed her to pack her belongings. My dad just told us that we are going to go. The defendant's daughter said, noting that she and her sister were crying as her father drove them and 3 of her half-siblings to her aunt's home in California City. The child's mother remained at the Lancaster home with Anthony, Destiny, and Raphael. The witness said, the prosecutors noted that Levi uttered an expletive in the downtown LA courtroom while his daughter was being questioned about what he had subsequently told Levi's family members. Mr. Levi, I have not made up my mind about anything, so your actions and how you react is part of the process of trial. The judge told him after directing courtroom bailiffs to have the defendant sit down. You wanted to get up and leave. This is your trial. The judge reminded Levi that everyone needs to keep their emotions in check and that he would give him 10 minutes to compose himself before the trial resumed. Leva's daughter said her father also wanted to drive to the home of two other children to see them in case he wound up getting arrested. She said she didn't see Anthony throwing himself on the ground, although she, Barone, and Leva each told investigators that he had. Anthony's half brother Raphael and half sister Destiny testified last week that they had been forced to undergo punishment, including kneeling on uncooked cooked rice, wrestling each other, and watching each other be disciplined. And that they saw Leva repeatedly dropping Anthony on a bedroom floor shortly before his death. During his opening statement, Deputy District Attorney Saeed Tayamori told the judge that Barone and Leva tortured and abused Anthony for 2 weeks before his death, while an attorney for Leva countered that his client should be acquitted of murder. You guys, now they're saying they're not guilty. They pled not guilty. Uh, I don't know what you call this. I mean, why? How would they ever get away with saying they're not guilty? Anthony Avalos graduated the fourth grade on June 7th, 2018, and for two consecutive 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 weeks. Oh, consecutive. He was abused and tortured every single day. To when the first responders found his lifeless body on June 20th. The boy died early the next morning. Ty Mori told the judge that there had been multiple contacts with the county's Department of Children and Family Services dating back to 2014. She's been torturing her kids for a long period of time. And one defendant, Leva, came into the picture. It turned deadly, he said. The prosecutor said the boy was already brain dead and had been lying on the floor in the family's townhouse for at least a day, possibly more, when Heather called 911 to seek assistance for the boy. And then the two concocted a story that Anthony had injured himself. Leva subsequently acknowledged that he had the boy kneel on uncooked rice and admitted that he had rendered him unconscious for about 5 minutes just days earlier. Levi's attorney countered that the evidence would demonstrate that there is reasonable doubt involving the murder charges against his client. Dan Chambers said the two major issues will be a lack of intent to kill and the issues of causation. The defense lawyer questioned the accounts of the boy's half-siblings whose testimony he said has changed over the time. Can you believe he really, when his daughter was speaking, when she was, on the stand, he really tried to intimidate her. Like you can tell this has been going on. He got up and he's trying to scare them. So of course these kids change their stories because of how intimidating these monsters are to them. It's disgusting. So for him to say, "Oh yeah, their stories changed over time," of course. Chambers told the judge that many of the statements by the children are inconsistent, saying that their initial statement showed a lack of any actions on behalf of Mr. Leva with respect to the treatment of Anthony, and that Mr. Leva's conduct allegedly grew worse. Conduct. As the children underwent further questioning, those inconsistencies in the evidence will be apparent, and once we demonstrate that, it will show what the children claim they say Mr. Leva is doing is inconsistent with the medical evidence, the defense attorney said. This case is a case of severe abuse, but as to Mr. Leva, it is not murder. Oh, these freaking defense lawyers. One of Barone's attorneys, Nancy Sperber, opted not to making an opening statement, but called two witnesses in advance of the prosecution resting its case. The prosecution still has more witnesses, including social workers, who are expected to testify next week. Priscilla's mother, Daisy Nava, testified that she experienced repeated domestic violence by Leva and called the LA County Sheriff's Department for the first time in January 2010 to report an argument that turned physical. She said the two are separated but still legally married, and that she hadn't sought assistance from law enforcement earlier because she felt a lot of shame and didn't want her family to know. Barone and Leva were charged in June 2018 with the boys' killings and were subsequently indicted by a LA County grand jury in 2018. Um, and the lawsuit they won was for $32 million, by the way. I'm going to go to play the teacher's testimony. I really have to use the bathroom. Can you talk? I use the bathroom. Oh. That was so fast. Okay. How the hell they go to a plea to not guilty? Exactly. I have no idea how that would even work. They're obviously guilty as fuck. Okay, Anthony Avalos death trial witness called hotline. I did that one. Teacher shares letter. I'll play this one.
The Geico could help with your homeowner insurance.
Oh, sure.
Cookies. Oh, it's my mum's secret recipe.
Cookies.
Not making that? It's a secret. Is it cinnamon? It's my mum's secret recipe. Geico.
Anthony Avalos would be in 9th grade if he were still alive today. Prosecutors say the 10-year-old Lancaster boy was tortured and killed by his mother and her ex-boyfriend. Today, Anthony's 4th grade teacher took the witness stand to describe the boy that she says was everyone's best friend. Here's Colleen Sullivan.
Bonded by grief and the
That's his
love
aunt
they had
right
for
there.
Anthony Avalos, the 10-year-old boy's Aunt Maria and 4th grade teacher Harmony Bell embraced outside court today.
He was loved beyond measure by every single person at that school. So like I said, at least this last year, he was loved.
That's his aunt, and that's the teacher that has the note that Anthony wrote her. They were really close.
Anthony may have been loved at school, but at home, prosecutors say his mother, Heather Barron, and her ex-boyfriend, Kareem Leyva, tortured Anthony and his younger siblings. Anthony died of severe head trauma 2 weeks after his last day of school in June 2018.
The last day of school, Anthony, he was excited. Last day, he knew we were going to be together again in 5th grade, and he would always draw me pictures and write me letters. So it says, "Dear Mrs. Bell, thank you for teaching me everything you could. It was such a blessing to meet you."
Bell read the last letter she got from Anthony in court today.
"I just want to stay with you forever, but I can't. I just hope you have a good rest of your life because..."
It must be so hard. And like in Gabriel's case, the teachers seemed to be like the closest with these children. The same thing happened in Gabriel's case where his teacher was really close to him as well. And
you already know that I'm going to have a good life. Love, Anthony Avalos, your friend. I think it's really showing the bond that we had.
Also in court today, prosecutors played 2 calls made to DCFS hotline. The first by an assistant principal at school back in 2015 after she spoke with Anthony.
He had started this because his mom was hitting them, locking them up in their room for long hours. And I looked at my notes, thanking them, putting them to do captain's chairs in the corner.
Okay, what is that, captain's chair?
Captain's chairs, he demonstrated it for me where he has to stand up against the wall and kneel down, like bend down.
And in 2016, another call made to DCFS from a daycare worker after Anthony's siblings came in with bruises on their faces.
That they, she keeps them in time for a long time, and then they get in trouble, and she won't give them food or something. because they, they get in trouble for it. They whatever, if they do something wrong.
So she was told to?
Yes,
Okay.
I was told.
Uh-huh.
That kind of hurt me.
Yes. And what else did they say?
That one,
Another person.
that one of the kids digged out the trash and ate food before.
As for Belle, Anthony's beloved fourth grade teacher, she never saw any signs of abuse. She wondered why he didn't open up to her.
And that's why I think he didn't open up, because he opened up once to us and the system failed him.
And I totally agree with his aunt. Every time he would open up or tell somebody something, he was failed. So he felt like he didn't have that help. Like, what is the point of me opening up? And that is really sad.
And he probably figured, they took away my Aunt Maria, my Uncle David, my cousins, and I don't want them to take away my teacher.
Anthony's aunt and uncle tried to save him, calling DCFS themselves at least 4 times, but DCFS always returned Anthony to his mother.
I just hope we all can do better in protecting these kids.
The coroner also.
We love our new home. There's so much space,
What is that?
but we have ants.
Expired.
The coroner also testified, and I'll just play that, you guys, because trial is still ongoing. The Gaskin, the freaking idiot, what is he? Hold on. He thinks that all these people deserve second chances, and he doesn't go for a death sentence. Like, he's totally against it. And it's George Gaskin, who is the American attorney, and he's a former police officer who is the district attorney of LA County. So yeah, he thinks that these people deserve second chances. He even tried to help Pearl Fernandez, Gabriel's mother, like, get a whole nother trial, and it was crazy. We have a petition actually, like, out there trying to get him out from being the district attorney. He's a horrible man. I mean, do you think these people deserve second chances? I don't think anyone does. Let me play the. We're almost done, guys. Okay.
Anthony Avalos' torture and murder trial saw an image of the 10-year-old's brain that showed he had suffered multiple blunt force injuries. Anthony died in June of 2018. His mother, Heather Barron, and her ex-boyfriend, Kareem Leyva, have both pleaded not guilty. A coroner neuropathologist testified that the injuries to Anthony's brain could have been caused by shaking, slapping, or dropping Anthony on his head repeatedly, and that the injuries ranged from 1 day to 3 weeks old. A second coroner who testified today refuted what other witnesses have said by stating that Anthony was not malnourished. Today, the judge
and that is bullshit. So that had to be a person, a coroner on their side, right?
The award-winning Geico mobile app.
Arctic. Oh, he left me. I didn't know he left me. So that coroner must have been on their side, and he was malnourished. You can see. I will show his picture before I get off of here. You guys, trigger warning. It's horrible. I cry every time I see it. It's disgusting, and it's so sad that how many times it's been reported, and nothing happened.
Bill has joined the call. Hey, Bill, we'll just.
Hi, guys. Do we have Julie on the line, too?
Okay,
Sorry.
okay, we'll
The award-winning Geico app.
Today, the judge in the Anthony Avalos torture and murder trial saw an image of the 10-year-old's brain that showed he had suffered multiple blunt force injuries. Anthony died in June of 2018. His mother, Heather Barron, and her ex-boyfriend, Kareem Leyva, have both pleaded not guilty. A coroner neuropathologist testified that the injuries to Anthony's brain could have been caused by shaking, slapping, or dropping Anthony on his head repeatedly, and that the injuries ranged from 1 day to 3 weeks old. A second coroner who testified today refuted what other witnesses have said by stating that Anthony was not malnourished.
So,
What's up, Einstein?
Anthony's body was covered in bruises, abrasions, and burns. The cause of death is from blunt force trauma to the head, where the only visible exterior injuries were a purple bruise on his left ear and abrasions to his nose and cheek. It was in Anthony's head where the real and deadly damage was done to his brain. Anthony's mother, Heather, and her ex-boyfriend, Kareem, are both charged with Anthony's torture and murder, as well as the abuse of two of Anthony's step-siblings. Barone and Leva have both pleaded not guilty, and on Tuesday, forensic neuropathologist Dr. Chow Win testified about the severe injuries to Anthony's brain, multiple blunt force impacts that range in age from 1 day to 3 weeks. Deputy District Attorney John Hatami displayed an image of the outer layer of Anthony's brain. Dark red spots showed multiple subdural hematomas, a type of bleeding that occurs between the skull and the surface of the brain. This kind of level, you have to accumulate those kinds of repeated injuries, Nguyen said. Nguyen testified that those brain injuries could have been caused by shaking, forcibly slapping, or dropping Anthony on his head. Last week, Anthony's siblings testified that the night before police and paramedics came to their apartment, Leva had picked up Anthony by the feet and dropped him to the ground head first, between 10 and 20 times. Nguyen added that Anthony's severe dehydration only made things worse, contributing to the blood clots in his brain. A second coroner, Dr. Juan Carrillo, also took the stand on Tuesday. The manner of death I deem homicide, said Carrillo. Cause of death would be blunt force head trauma. On cross-examination, defense attorneys for Levi and Barron elicited testimony from Carrillo that he did not believe Anthony was malnourished at the time of his death. That testimony flies in the face of firefighters, nurses, and doctors who have testified that Anthony was so thin his ribs and hip bones were sticking out. Also on the stand Tuesday was Roxana Palma, the ex-girlfriend of Carlos Garcia. Garcia is the biological father of one of Heather Barron's children. Angel Palma testified that she considered herself a stepmother to Angel when she lived with his father between 2015 and 2020. Barone and Garcia split custody of Angel 50-50 until soon after Angel showed up one day with a large scratch on his leg. He would be kind of scared to tell us, Palma testified. He'd say it was Kareem that did it. Soon after that, Barone asked Palma and Garcia to take Angel full time. Palma says Heather told her that she didn't want to deal with accusations anymore of Angel coming home hurt with bruises and scratches. Angel went to live with Garcia and Palma full time in October 2017, just 8 months before Anthony died. Palma also told the court that Garcia told her Angel and Leva forced the children to fight one another. You guys, and for the biological father, he wanted Anthony to go live with him. They didn't send. He was in Mexico at the time. He's illegal, but he always wanted to be a part of Anthony's life. If you guys are wondering, like, where is he at? He even the grandma, she's always posting. She's posting about the trial. There's not a lot, but I just wanted to see, you guys to see who testified. This is, I hate this. It's so disgusting. So we have the coroner that testified, the teacher that testified, and the defendant's daughter that testified. California boy looked like cancer patient. That's what one of the nurses had said as well. I want to read this too as well, really quick, before, and then I'm going to show you the picture. Actually, let me show you the picture while I'm reading this. And you can't tell me that he doesn't look uh, malnourished or um, ah, ah, where did he go? No, this is all it's going to let me do. So you can't really, it's not finding it. This is him. I mean, you can see how skinny his arms are, and weighing only 77 pounds. So, um, this says doctors and nurses are expected to testify that Barone displayed surprisingly little emotion when told of her son's dire condition and ultimate death, instead, seeming to fake emotion and forcing herself to cry. One doctor said Anthony's mother seemed to blame the boy. I don't know why they say the boy. Seemed to blame Anthony for his condition. So she was blaming Anthony for these bruisings, and this happens in a lot of cases as well. Just like in the Dakota case, they said that he did all that to himself. He caused all the bruising. He caused something to be stuck up his butt and bleed out of there. Um, it's disgusting, you guys. Um, there's also in opening statements Wednesday, prosecutors said one child abuse expert said the damage to his knees was the worst she'd ever seen. While he was kneeling, a vacuum cord was used to strike him repeatedly all over his body. He was forced to hold weights, books, or bricks over his head for extended periods of time. Food and water were often withheld from him. At other times, he would be force fed peanut butter and hot sauce. Between them, they had 12 children. Though not all of them lived in the household, prosecutors say some of the children in the house were forced to fight each other, including chokeholds that left them grasping for breath. Oh, God. You guys, it's disgusting. And for them not even to be able to try them for a death penalty, it blows my mind. An EMT described the boy's condition where he had no pulse, it was not breathing, he had multiple abrasions, cigarette burns, and was so malnourished that his ribs were visible. So you can't tell me that he was not malnourished. The defense team opening arguments, the defense attorney also gave an opening statement on Wednesday, while Heather's attorney deferred on giving an opening for now. Leva's attorney, Dan Chambers, said evidence will demonstrate reasonable doubt that his client intended to kill Anthony. He said he will also raise inconsistencies about the medical evidence and the actual cause of death, as well as inconsistencies in the expected testimony of children in the household. He acknowledged it was a case involving severe child abuse, but argued that Leva is not guilty of murder. This case is a bench trial to be decided by a judge, not a jury. So, you guys, please keep his family in your prayers. They have been fighting for years, and now finally the trial has begun. Um, for them to try to say that the children's inconsistencies prove something other than him, the fucking monster killing them, killing Anthony, is disgusting. Of course, parents use threats against children and it makes them change their mind. They're young. Of course, they're gonna be scared. And they already were going through hell. Imagine what they said to make them more scared. Like, you will get this 100 times worse, even though they've already been through worse. It's so sad. It is so heartbreaking that these children went through what they did. And Anthony, who was such an amazing child, when he was living with when he visited his aunt and uncle, you guys can just see how happy he was. He was smiling. He would go fishing. He was loved. He was fed. He was cared for. This trial has not ended. There is not much update in the news yet, and I can't really ask what is going on. I can, but I can't put it out here yet. So I will keep giving updates. So far we have a testimony from the daughter, we have testimony for coroner, and we have testimony from the teacher. Please keep this family in prayer. Please. Justice to me would be the death penalty or somebody murdering these freaks in prison. They don't deserve life. Anthony deserved life. He would be in 9th grade. He didn't get the chance to even make it to middle school. High school, sorry, 9th grade. He didn't get those chances. He didn't get a chance to go to homecoming. He won't get a chance to do prom. He won't get any chance of happiness, of first girlfriends. The only time he was ever happy and loved were at his aunt's house and his uncle's house. And the state failed him miserably, and his siblings. But they just pushed it all to the side, like they always do. And the same caseworkers that didn't get punishment in Gabriel's case were the same that failed Anthony. It is unbelievable. It is disgusting. And I am so tired of hearing about these cases and nothing happening to these caseworkers. So thank you guys for listening so much. Please share, like the video. Keep them in your prayers. Anthony was an amazing child. Amazing. Yeah, the not guilty plea, I guess, is they're trying to show that his abuse he didn't mean to kill Anthony, which you're picking up a child, dropping him on his head constantly over and over and over and over. So you didn't mean to kill him? You thought he was just going to live and that you could torture him more and more and more? Fucking pieces of shit. I'm sorry, guys. I got to get off this case. Oh, it makes me disgusted. Thank you guys for watching. I will have more updates. Like I said, this is only the 10th day. There's way more to come, and I will get everything. If I am allowed to say more than what's in the news, which I don't think I can. I don't want this case hurt in any type of way. So I appreciate you guys. Please be kind to one another, and please, if you see something, say something. And please do not, in some cases, like Anthony's, Gabriel's, people blame the family. Well, what did they do? Where were they at? You don't know who did what or what they did. And in both these cases, and Noah Bartho's case, I know that the family tried as much as they could. The teachers as well. In Gabriel Fernandez's case, his teacher did everything she could, and the school tried to cover it up. They already feel bad enough because nobody would listen to them. So they don't need any blaming of any kind. Be kind to one another. There's so much hate out there. I will see you guys later. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this video a like and keep a lookout for another update.